I have two really special guests. They're family, uncles. They were two of my dad's best friends, founders, innovators, leaders. We're starting off today with Tommy Amalfitano, founder of San Pedro Fish Market. There at the beginning, age 15, and working beside him, one of his best friends, John Bacich, my sister's godfather, and an uncle to me, confidant, consigliere, if you will. John is an amazing guy with a whole bunch of stories to share, but also accomplishments on his own. So let's see what they have to say, and let's enjoy some stories about the old fish market today.
We don't have an oyster guy. We don't have none. What the heck happened to those guys?
I'm here slaving away, counting these registers, and they're over there drinking beer and having a good time.
Ireland.
We Snapchat each other, and we had never met till
Today.
We can't get anybody into our booth because they're scaring people away. I think we need you guys to get out of here.
Get this guy in the ass. Get him out of the way. Dude, what'd you do? What did you do?
They told me it started on Friday morning. I'm getting a stomachache.
This guy's a smart ass. He asking me how is business. I think he should get his head out of his ass, open his eyes, and look around. We're going to be 100% full. We may have to shut the doors. Price tag's still on there. And the name brand of the shirt.
Got John Bacich and Tommy Amalfitano. I don't even know where to start today. I didn't know both of you guys were going to make it for sure. So we'll start like this. I want to start actually first, John. So how far back, because you knew my dad and you knew Tommy and my grandfather before the fish market was ever opened, right?
Yeah, in fact, just talk through the history with the Ungaro family and then to Tommy. I actually remember your great-grandparents who were on the corner of 11th Street and Mesa, or Center, I guess it is, which of course at that time was our version of the Guinea Gulch in San Pedro. So since I'm half Italian, I can say that. But just to quickly go through that history, in that street, the families that you had there, starting at the top, was Cardullo, Padolano, and Bagliazzo, and of course, and then my grandparents, the Ardinos, and then on the corner were the Ungaros, and those were your great-grandparents, immigrants, and so many memories with them making tomato sauce every year and doing all the things they did. On the other side of the street, of course, was the Amalfitanos, not related to Tommy, but Joe Amalfitano, who was in major football or baseball for over 50 years and coached third base for the Dodgers for about 12 years. So, my memory really goes back to the grandparents, but to Henry, Tommy's partner of so many years, I met him in kindergarten at 15th Street School in Miss Slocum's class. And so that's how long I knew him. And of course, Henry grew up on 14th Street, right below Center, and I grew up on 13th Street down around Beacon. But of course, the families were meshed all the way from 11th Street. So it was certainly a long, long history, particularly with my mother. So yeah, Henry goes back to, whenever we started the kindergarten. So that would have been around 1948 or 49. And of course, the friendship grew from there. And so I was around Henry the whole time growing up. And the families, as I mentioned, were very well meshed because of my mom. And I do remember, I don't know how far you want to go into the stories, but I do remember, I know the tie between my grandfather, Joe Ardino, and Tony Ungaro, who occasionally got into, let's say, a little bit of trouble, sometimes a lot of trouble. But my grandfather really took a liking to Tony, and so whenever he got incarcerated, my grandfather would bail him out and bring him home and not tell his parents. So he was endeared to my grandfather all of his life. But
Wow.
anyway, where did I meet Tommy? So Tommy, of course, I knew him through the years growing up with Henry, and we spent a lot of time going hunting together and Stanley DeMeglo's ranch and a lot of different other places.
Oh, yeah.
But where I really got to know Tommy a lot better was when he transferred over from Mary Star High School to San Pedro High in, I believe, the 10th grade, Tommy. And so we wound up, is that right?
11th and 12th.
Oh, okay,
Go ahead.
11th and 12th.
Yeah.
And so we wound up in the same homeroom because homeroom was done alphabetically. And so we got to know each other, a lot better through those 2 years. And so, this friendship, of course, with Henry has gone 50 plus years, and now pretty much the same with Tommy. But, one standout event, Mike, that I mentioned to you with Tommy was Tommy was destined to do what he did. There's no two ways about it, because I remember when we had, I think it was career day at San Pedro High School. So you had the opportunity to meet with a lot of different people from a lot of different disciplines in life. And so I asked Tommy, I said, Tommy, what do you want to do today? And he said, you know what? I've always wanted to run a big fish market. That's always been my dream. He said, but I'll just tag along with you wherever you go today. Yeah. And, that has stuck in my mind. And, that has been Tommy's dream. And if there's ever been a dream come true, you can see what his contribution has been from day one to San Pedro Fish Market. But I know, they went through some very, very tough years. And I think Tommy actually started working at City Fish with Jack Cuomo, if I'm not mistaken, and worked there for a little while, and certainly worked his way up to the position he's in now. But that particular day really sticks out in my mind. So that's how I know Henry and Tommy.
So just to track, you knew my dad since kindergarten. You met Tommy in high school, but Tommy, when did you and my dad first meet?
We were 18 days apart.
Yeah.
Your dad's grandmother, your great grandmother.
Yeah.
They lived next door to each other in Ischia.
Oh.
So when they immigrated here, they were all fishermen and stuff. They immigrated. So they come to San Pedro, and that's how we've been together all these years.
Wow. Were you and my dad at the same school at some point though, and then switched over with John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at Mary Star together.
Oh, got it. Okay.
He came to Mary Star about the 7th grade, something like that. I guess your grandma wanted to send him to jail. So they sent him to Catholic school, got out of the other one. The funny thing, your grandmother would make a lunch for him every day because he was a little bit on the heavy side. So she'd bring a lunch to him. Your grandfather, Mackie, would give him some money to go into the store at the school so he could buy other things that he wanted to eat. So it was a funny triangle thing. And John mentioned the Imbagliazzos. The Amalfitanos, when they came from Italy, lived on the same tenement floor in New York City with the Imbagliazzos. Yeah, and then there was another lady. I forgot what the other one was.
The Padawanos were also on 11th Street. I forgot to mention them.
Yeah, Honorados, you're right. And then as we got older, we got a license to drive cars. Henry and I would have to go pick the grandmothers up bring them down to your grandmother's house so they could play bingo. And you had better not be 1 minute late, otherwise they'd be phoning my mother wanting to know where the hell we're at and everything else. Then we had to pick them up like 11 o'clock at night, pick them up at 7, pick them up at 11, take them home. Well, they didn't give a shit if we were there at 11 o'clock or not. You could have went to midnight, 1 o'clock. They didn't care, so we had a good time with those ladies. In fact, the picture's on the refrigerator door in the office.
Oh, no way. I just
those are the 4 ladies. You never paid attention?
I didn't know who they were. I just saw that.
That's who they are. My grandmother, your grandmother, old lady Imbagliazzo, and old lady Di Scala.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, Mike, I think I sent you a photo not long ago, which was a picture of your grandparents with all of the Ungaro boys, including Mackie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still have that, but that was a picture that my mother had.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So, okay. So now I got where the 3 of you all met. When did my grandfather come into play, and when did you guys start working together?
Well, it was fairly brief for me, and but I can tell you a couple of stories that I think back to every now and then. But for me, the experience at the fish market really started at Vista Fish Market, which was the first market that what they had, and Tommy was working there. And before I went to SC, I went to Harbor College. So when I would finish school, I'd come and hang out at the fish market. I mean, it was a wonderful place to hang out, always something going on, screwing around with good friends, and we'd always cook something in the back. So my first memories of the fish market are really at Vista Fish. And we always had a cast of characters coming through there. And I think I mentioned one standout I remembered was, Nuge, who was our city attorney for many, many years, Carmen Trutanich. As a little kid, we'd have food in there from Slavko's and a lot of different other places. He'd come in there as a little kid. I never saw a kid eat so much as Nuge did. And I mentioned that to him once before. He said he had a faint memory of it, and that's probably because he probably was comatose from all the chicken meat. But anyway, we always had a cast of characters going through there, but it was always a great place to hang out. And I can tell you that's where Mackie, I know he taught me, and I think he taught everybody else how to make cioppino. And for a very selfish good reason. Then, he didn't have to cook it, and then he always had something for lunch. And my first lesson in making cioppino was from Mackie Ungaro. But anyway, so there's Vista Fish Market. And then things started. I can't remember exactly how it started on the waterfront at Norm's Landing, but I know when I first went down there was still a guy there by the name of Jimmy Weber. And Tommy will probably remember this as much as I do. Yeah. And I can't remember what the relationship with Mackie and Jimmy was. It could have been unpaid debts for whatever reason or whatever it might have been. But as a result, Mackie offered him an amount of money and bought the rights to that fish market. And that's how he took over the ownership. For the first couple of weeks, I was getting ready to start college. And Tommy, of course, was doing the bulk of the work running Vista Fish Markets. So Henry and I helped Mackie, load the cases with ice every morning. And I did that for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then Mackie would pay me for doing that work. And then I took off to college. And so, that was really the start of what was San Pedro Fish as I remember it. And Tommy may remember other details. But I have so many fond memories of hanging out at those markets. There were, number one, so many characters that worked there. And Tommy can probably fill in the blanks better than I can. But such colorful names as though Damon Runyon wrote the story. But Monterey Red, I'm sure you'll remember him, Tommy. Chicago Joe Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Boston Tony, who was actually working with the DeMeglios at Ocean Fish.
That's right. You got a good memory, John.
And other names, which
Joe Brown.
Joe
Johnny
Brown.
Skaggs, Johnny Skaggs.
Johnny Skaggs.
Butsy.
A big head, and another endearing name, which I think is actually Richie Iacono. So, just a wonderful cast of characters, all a bunch of really good guys, and always a lot of laughs. But I also remember one story where Mackie called me. It was early one morning. He says, "Hey, you got a fishing license?" And I go, "Yeah, I do. Why?" He says, "Don't ask me any questions. You're going to come down here to the market. I'm going to, because Ski, the game warden's down here, and he's trying to pitch me because I got some calico bass here in the cooler. And I guess the rule is it's a game fish, so you're not supposed to have that in a commercial fish market unless you're keeping it for somebody. So he says, just come on down here. I'm going to show you some calico bass, and just tell him it's yours." I said, "Okay." So the part he didn't tell me, though, is the second part is when I got there, I said, "Yeah, it's mine." And so now Ski, the warden, says, "All right, let's go down to the sport fishing office and see if you're on the list of people who are on such and such a boat." And I'm like, "Oh shit, this is it. The jig is up." So I go down there. They look on the list on the manifest. Lo and behold, there I am. I didn't know I went fishing that day, but I did. So I came back. I said, "Mackie, what the hell?" He gave me $100 and said, "Thanks, kid. That's it."
That's it. What year is all this? Is all like late.
So that would have been the summer of 1960. Wow. Before I went to left to go to college.
Yeah.
That sound about right, Tommy?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
65 years ago.
Yeah, Jimmy Weber.
Jimmy Weber.
I was standing right there. He was the owner of the place. And then Mackie peeled out $500. Said, "Here, this is yours. There's the door.
Okay.
You're out of here." I don't know if you remember that, John. I don't know if you were there.
I knew it happened. I didn't know the details.
Yeah, I was right there. Weber left. He didn't say a word, man. He was happy to get the $500.
Landing started with $500 and eventually became.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Think about the ROI on that, Mike. You went to business.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God. Because I think right before I was trying to do the math the other day, but I think right up until the end of 2022 that year with everything, our gross sales were somewhere over $42 million from that project. Insane. Wow. So all right. So John, you went off to Harbor and then USC. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I went to Harbor and USC and also Long Beach State. And Tommy many times accused me of being a professional student. He says, "You have to get a job someday." And no doubt. But that was pretty much my career path. The men before me in my family were either longshoremen or tuna fishermen. And no, I didn't follow that because my father told me I wasn't going to. But so it was certainly an interesting path from there, leaving San Pedro and then working for the same company for close to 35 years, which is really unheard of these days.
Yeah. And because you retired, 20 years ago?
Actually, I had set a goal that I had started pretty young, and I set a goal that I wanted to retire at age 55. And that wasn't really, I didn't realize that was really a foolish goal because age 55 is really not that old since I'm 82 now. But that is what I did. And, but I retired after over 30 years with Baxter Healthcare in 1998. And so I thought that was the right thing to do. And so for the first couple of years, it was good. But at the time, the CEO of the company had asked me, he said, "Would you stay on as a retainer because your replacement, who I worked on choosing him, is coming from Europe. He's kind of new at this." And he said, if we could retain you for a year and just be available for advice and that sort of thing and maybe come in once in a while, we'd be happy to retain you. Well, that 1 year retainer went for 12 years because I got involved in a lot of other things for them. But that was a great transition in retirement because it wasn't cold turkey. But then I did other things in the industry. And as you know, I still actually work with a small biotech company. But so that was pretty much the career path.
And Tommy didn't. Tommy's not. I don't think Tommy believes in retirement. I think it's the same as death because he told me if he dies on a Friday, they put him in the freezer until Monday.
That's it. You're damn right.
Well, I think if you love what you do, and I know Tommy does, his work has been a labor of love all his whole life. Then why would you quit? You know, I think your work life changes. Of course, I don't work 70 or 80 hours a week anymore, but staying involved in the things that I like to do is a much healthier way to go.
Yeah,
For sure.
What?
I'm finally getting like that. I do nothing. Mike and the rest of them, they do everything for me. Everything.
The way it should be.
Yeah, it's great. Let me tell you, great.
We don't have an oyster guy. We don't have that. What the heck happened to those guys?
I'm here slaving away, counting these registers, and they're over there drinking beer and having a good time.
Ireland.
We Snapchat each other, and we had never met till
Today.
We can't get anybody into our booth because they're scaring people away. I think we need you guys to get out of here.
Get this guy in the ass. Get him out of the way. Dude, what'd you do? What did you do?
They told me it started on Friday morning. I'm getting a stomachache.
This guy's a smart ass. We asked him, how is business? I think he should get his head out of his ass, open his eyes, and look around. We're going to be 100% full. We may have to shut the doors. Price tag's still on there. And the name brand of the shirt.
Mike, I'm going to try to see if you can you see that model boat behind me?
Yeah. Perfect.
I was going to share a story with you. This kind of ties to our fishing industry, but that model, my uncle Nick Bacich made that. He was really gifted in terms of carving and woodworking. From that hull, he made it out of a solid block of wood. It wasn't made with all the strips and that sort of thing, but that boat wound up in the headquarters of Starkist Tuna on Terminal Island for a number of years in a glass case. And then when that shut down, they gave it to, I think, Nick Radosich, who was my dad's partner on the Western Fisher. And then Nick, when he passed away, their family gave it back to me. So I finally have it back. Wow. So there's a little bit of tuna industry memorabilia.
Oh, that's insane. That's crazy. Did you also are you related to the DeMeglios, John? Was there like a family?
Yeah, I am, because through my mother.
Okay.
So my mother and Annie DeMeglio were either first or second cousins, and so that's how I was related to Ralph and Stanley DeMeglio and their sister.
Got it. And they were wholesalers for a long time in seafood down at the bottom.
Yeah, they were the originators, and Tommy knows this history better than I do. But the Ocean Fish Company, which is one of the big wholesale fish companies on. Tommy, I forget what that group was called, but the 30 Thieves or whatever it was.
40 Thieves, they call
The
them.
40 Thieves. So, you had Thomas Brothers and the Sigliano family and the DeMeglios, and I'm sure there were others. But they owned Ocean Fish, but they started out in a very, very humble way.
Yeah.
They started out, actually, they had a little farm near where Bixby Slough was, in Wilmington. And they had a few animals, and that's how they were keeping meat on the table while they were starting to get into the fish business. And Annie DeMeglio had told us that they didn't have cribs for all the kids, So she would just put blankets in the big drawers of cabinets, and that's where the kids would sleep at night. So they had very, very humble beginnings.
Wow. Crazy. I didn't realize that. So, I'm curious, John, like I know growing up working in the fish market, it was a lot of hard work, and you just got your stuff done and moved on. Did that create any life lessons for you when you moved on to college? Because I'm probably one of the only family members to go to college too, and work in different places.
Yeah,
I remember we just had a reunion for Coast Federal Bank where I worked for a while in my late teens, early 20s. And our boss was a lady named Barbara Mancusi. She just turned 90. So about 50 or 60 of us that worked for her over the years surprised her with a birthday party and just a reunion. And I was listening to her just control the room and thinking, wow, 90 years old and she's still bossing all of us around.
Yeah. Well, look at Tommy. He's going to be doing it at 92. But yeah, life lessons, Mike, that is something that has really stuck with me, because not only working in the fish market, but also on some summers, I'd also work on my dad's boat. So, you never complained about the work because that was just the nature of the job. I mean, if you did, you would be such a standout that you'd probably be thrown off. So, never really complained about that. But the life lesson was, once I got into corporate life, I'd see people complaining about the hours. Oh my gosh, I have to travel, or the air conditioning isn't working. And I thought, my gosh, try 6 or 8 weeks at sea, or try working 10, 12, 14 hours a day in a fish market that's cold most of the time. So when it came to that, I thought the life lesson was work ethic. That work ethic, there's no amount of effort that you shouldn't put into something that you believe in, and be blessed that you have the job. Don't complain about it. Just do it. And so I think what it taught me is I was just able to endure a lot more than the people around me.
Yeah.
And
I remember my first day as a bank teller, they're like, okay, it's time for you to take your break, and then you're going to go to lunch after. I go, what do you mean break? What's that?
Right.
Eat while you're working, don't you? And they looked at me like, you're going to ruin it for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that was the life lesson was, I felt in many ways, we kind of stood on the shoulders of those men who came and women who came before us. And so it was a great life lesson in terms of work ethic.
Tommy, when you were 15 when you started working in the fish market? Wasn't it 15 years old?
Yeah, 15 years old.
What I'm curious, did you always have the hard work ethic, or did it get beaten into you by my grandfather, or like how did that happen?
I was stupid. That's what it bounced out to really being, because your grandfather offered me and your dad both. You guys want to go to college? He says, I make enough money I can send both you to college. Any college you want to go to.
Wow.
And we both looked at it. He said, you're going to tell me right now, it's yes or no. You're going to work in a fish market or you're going to go to college. And then we said, we'll work in the fish market. So if I had to do it all over again, I would go to college, not because I didn't want to work in the fish market. I might go back. I probably would have went right back to the fish market, but I would have a lot more knowledge in my head about some of the things to do and not do. So it's, so that's the only regret I
do.
Mike, I think Tommy's being modest. I think he was driven. He worked harder than anybody. He sacrificed.
I did work hard, but
long hours, no vacations, and there were tough days where those guys, he and your dad wondered about how they're going to make payroll. So he's being modest in terms of what he contributed. But one other life lesson that I think I saw, which was a difference, which is generational, for people who come out of working on the docks or working on boats and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's true. I became the president of that company in the last 10 years that I worked there. So it was not instant gratification. But I think the difference that I saw in generations that came behind me, there were a lot of people that thought, when I would ask them, what are your ambitions? I was always interested in what horizons people were looking at. Well, they said, we'd like to have your job. And I said, that's great. I hope you get that and I hope you attain that. But the problem is they wanted it later that afternoon. And they didn't realize that sometimes overnight successes take 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. This doesn't flop into your hands. Yeah.
Right.
True.
I mean, what we've been going through for the last, 3 years now, right? It's so similar in a lot of ways to what you, Tommy, and my dad and grandfather had to deal with, 30 or 40 years ago when you had to build San Pedro Fish. Like what? Tell us a little bit about that. So you have to leave Norm's Landing, you're in a parking lot, then you have to reopen San Pedro Fish. What was that like? Or you had to open it for the first time. It didn't exist before.
That was crazy, because when we first went in, we knew the fish business, and most people took fish to go home and eat. So after about 3 months, the first month we didn't even open the fast food because we were scared we were going to mess everything all up. And then finally we opened it, and that was running maybe a month later. Then we opened up the dining room part of it, and then it took a little while, but that also went pretty good, so.
We were there every Friday.
Then everything went good, and then we started with like a small deck, and then we just kept adding and adding and adding, put the upstairs in, so there was a lot more to it. And when we were doing that, we had a lot of friends that helped us and knew what to do and stuff. So it was I was a lucky person. Yeah. And I happened to be the guy that I knew all these people. I knew the pile driver and he taught us how to lay the planks for the decks. And if you were half an inch off as you're putting them down, because he'd have to go to work at a job. He was doing us a favor. He'd come back that night, and if you were off, where'd you start? Back here. You go measure that. If that would, take all these out. Take them out. Take them out. Yeah, take them out. And take all the boards back out. And he says, I told you guys to put these wedges in there. And the wedges got to go right there. So there's a lesson that I learned from the guy. And then when we finished, because when you lay a decking out, you start from the outside.
Those are railroad ties, right? Those aren't light little pieces of wood.
No. They were 4 by 12 by 12. Oh, wow. So 4 inches thick, full 4 inches thick, by 12 feet across, 12 inches across, 12 feet long.
Wow.
Those things were heavy. Let me tell you.
It's not light.
Yeah. No shit. But anyways, we got it done with his help. So there was a lot of guys. There's even when we were building the upstairs, the health department guy, he was pretty neat. He come down and he says, what are you guys doing? I says, well, we're putting the thing upstairs. He says, okay, you pretend like I wasn't here, right? The next time I come in here, I want to see plastic all around all this stuff here. What you do on the weekend, I won't be here, so it's your choice there. But Monday morning, you better have plastic on this stuff in case I have to walk in. So, there was things like that, And people told me he was the toughest health inspector of all the inspectors.
Yeah.
You know,
What?
he liked us for some reason. I don't know why.
You had a story you shared not too long ago about, was it the Army Corps of Engineers for the permits? He couldn't get all the permits done, and this guy came down and you didn't know who he was, and he had everybody meet down on site at like 8 o'clock in the morning. What was that story?
Oh no, that was the originals. The original story is he was Army Corps of Engineer guy, the head man. His name was Jim Hall. Never forget that guy's name.
Okay.
So he come. I had never been to LA in my life hardly, you know. So I had to go to LA something like 20 times. So to a meeting at his place, and every time I went, federal fish and wildlife, fish and game, guys from Sacramento, here, there, everything. We're all there, and they'd go over all this shit. And the man never said a word to me. All he said was after about maybe a year, maybe less, and he put a stack of papers on the desk, and they were probably at least 12 inches tall. And he says, you know what, you guys? We're all going to go meet at San Pedro Fish on Monday morning, 8 o'clock. He said, it's mandatory. He said, the mandatory thing is if you don't show up, it's a yes. He could build a fish market. Otherwise, you show up at 8 o'clock. They all showed up. He has that same thing, the same package in his hand. He gets it and he drops it in the dirt. And he says, okay, everybody, nobody leaves this place until this guy gets a yes or a no. But first, I'm going to tell you a story. He says, when I was a kid, and I get choked up every time I say this, when I was a young man, my father would take me down here to go fishing and crabbing. And he would, my father went to this guy, which he pointed at me and said, hey, would like to buy some bait. And he said, yeah, go out there, some barrels, help yourself. So he picked what he wanted, come back in. He says, no, I got to pay you for the bait. And you turn around, he says, are you taking that kid fishing? He says, yeah, of course. He says, there's no charge. You come back anytime you want. He said, that kid was me. Head guy for Army Corps of Engineers. They all need him.
Wow.
He says, there's the corner of the lot where the market was at. He goes, you go over. You talk about it. Nobody's leaving until it's a yes or a no. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. They come back. Says, what's up? Yes.
Awesome.
I mean,
Great story.
but I never knew this from the beginning. He never said a word to me like he knew me or anything. And then he tells the story. It's very, very hard to me. I start crying every time I say it.
We could have used that guy now.
That's a great story.
Yeah, who
Mike,
knows where he's at?
I don't know if
that's 50 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's a good shot, John.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Talk about.
Oh yeah.
You see, there's a seal tank there, and that little
Yeah.
sign says cocktails. Shrimp.
Yeah.
And cocktail. Well, that's you talk about where did these guys start? It's that little hole in the wall right there. That was San Pedro Fish Market.
Arms Landing.
Yeah,
Cocktails and corn on the cob.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That's an old picture, isn't that from 1965 or something? Got the date on it, I think.
1964.
4.
Four.
Yeah, you guys are up and running.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a contrast, right? We just October 1st, I think, we were able to finally open the new location that we've been working on for 2.5 years, and it's all technology based now to make it work because we have to rush through these things, and
Yeah.
you're scanning with a QR code. It's not the old way of doing it, so the kitchen's getting inundated with 300 to 400 orders at a time.
Wow.
There's 1,600 seats, and they didn't figure out how to control the flow. No kitchen can handle 300 or 400 orders simultaneously. So,
Yeah, that is amazing.
but it's such a Tommy, I'm curious. Like now, from the time going back to the original Vista Seafood, then Norm's Landing, then San Pedro Fish, to now, like what goes through your mind when you see all these changes and the growth and the just still managing to all the customers still coming down despite all that.
Yeah, well, it's a great to me that the business continues to do well. The only thing we're missing is the personal touch that we're not reaching the customers. Yeah, they go in, they do the pad, they do that, they go pick up a beer. We're missing the interaction with the customers. How you doing? How was your shrimp? Did you get your shrimp fast enough? Tell us what's going on. That's the only thing we're missing, as far as I could see.
Yeah.
And
You know what I thought was kind of interesting is when we had the pandemic and we had to only let 6 people in at a time. That was one of the first times we actually got to talk to all the people and see like what.
Yeah.
It was amazing how many had. I didn't know how this place worked, even though I've been here all these because no one stopped to tell me. They just followed the crowd in and end up wherever they ended up until they sat down.
Yeah.
And because it was so hard with 1 million people coming through a year to talk to people. He disappeared.
Oh, okay. He's not going to answer me. He ducked the question.
John? What do you think? Like being there from the beginning to see where things have gone over the decades. I don't know. What kind of runs through your mind? Do you have a different perspective, having gone and done other things and been in other businesses?
Well, there's a number of thoughts that go through my mind. One is the great immigrant story of people who came into San Pedro, and so largely so many from on the Italian side, so many from Ischia, and on my dad's side, the people from Corchula. But to watch these immigrant families in terms of what can happen from generation to generation. So, for me, and I can talk about yours next, people who had started out working either on the docks or on fishing boats and then creating a basis for the next generation to get an education and do different things. That story certainly goes through this fish market because I see it with the Ungaros, your great grandparents that I talked to you about from basically, subsistence living on 11th Street to the generational business now that you and the Amalfitanos have. That's what goes through my mind. And, all of the progression of things that you see in corporate life, I've certainly seen happen through your business. And Tommy just talked about one that's very tough, and that is, as you change scale, how do you stay close to your customer? Yeah. How do you continue to have that same culture, friendly culture of your business and the things that you so much want to get to your customers? But that's, as I watch that progression, that's what goes through my mind. But then there's some emotional themes that run too, friendships that have lasted 60 and 70 years. And for your dad, you can give me an emotional moment like Tommy, but I miss him so very much.
Yeah, all do.
I really do.
So I think Tommy's phone died. He's sending me a text. I don't know if it was the battery or the phone, but we can wrap up either way. John, is there anything else you want to add before we end this episode?
Maybe just a couple of comments, Mike. I think I've really enjoyed this, reliving some of the paths through not only growing up in San Pedro, but San Pedro Fish Market and your dad and Tommy and reliving what a great story it's been. And I just thank you so much for asking me. And I was so happy to be able to contribute a couple of items from the past.
Oh, it's great to have you on. So, wrapping up the latest episode of Fish Factor, my guests, John Bacich and Tommy Amalfitano, mentors, family, uncle, founders, there from the beginning. Great stories shared today. Thank you guys.
We don't have an oyster guy. We don't have what the heck happened to those guys?
I'm here slaving away, counting these registers, and they're over there drinking beer and having a good time.
Ireland. We Snapchat each other, and we had never met till
Today.
We can't get anybody into our booth because they're scaring people away. I think we need you guys to get out of here.
Get this guy in the ass. Get him out of the way. Dude, what'd you do? What did you do?
They told me it started on Friday morning. I'm getting a stomachache.
This guy's a smart ass. We asked him, how is business? I think he should get his head out of his ass, open his eyes, and look around. We're going to be 100% full. We may have to shut the doors.
Price tag's still on there. And the name brand of the shirt.